Okay, we're back. Welcome to another episode of Shoptalk, the only show dedicated to all things landlording in Alberta. I'm MacKenzie Wilson. Alongside me is Eviction Expert Don Gray up with Edmonton Eviction Services out in Fort Saskatchewan. Are you getting snow right now, Don?
No, there's no snow. It's beautiful here.
Oh, we've gotten rain and snow here in Calgary the last couple of days. It keeps melting, but we're getting it right now. So
Well, we sure need the moisture.
Yeah, we definitely do. Don, while we're waiting for some people to get tuned in, I know we grabbed about 4 questions off the Facebook group tonight with some struggles that are going on. We can hopefully help out some fellow homeowners and landlords with. In the meantime, what is the current wait time for filing an eviction from the date you file to the date you get your hearing? How many days are we waiting right now?
Around 12 to 16.
12 to 16 days. So about 2 weeks right now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's been pretty steady for quite a while now.
Yeah, and you're saying you're getting a little bit busier with just a bunch of work coming in, which is good to hear. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay. Well, while we're waiting for folks to come on, and if you've just hopped online, we're something has changed, which is kind of a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. Facebook on April 24th, or about a week ago, has discontinued their API support for Facebook groups. And all that really means in non-technical terms is how we used to allow StreamYard to go directly into Facebook. Can't do that no more. So now we're just broadcasting on my YouTube channel. So we'll do that. I'm trying to figure a way to bring that back directly into the group. I can probably pose it as an event maybe, but anyways, something I realized today when I was getting the live stream set up. Don, we're kind of talking before the show about what we wanted to discuss tonight to help people out. You mentioned you had a really interesting point talking about a condo wanting to evict a tenant with an uncooperative landlord, and just shed some light on what were you seeing there?
Well, certainly, and that's something that comes up quite regularly. Condominiums boards, want the best for their building, for their group, and sometimes they see a tenant that's causing problems in the complex, and the owner maybe is not agreeing that is causing some problems, or maybe is far away and is poo-pooing all that. They don't want anything involved, and so then the condo board is stuck with the complaints from the tenant or about the tenant from other owners or neighbors, and they're not they can't do something about it, and right. So because I'm starting to get a little more known, I've had several of these phone calls over the last year maybe, and can you come help us? And the condominium board is governed by the Condominium Act, and in that act, and I believe it's section 55 and 56, I could be mistaken, my wife tells me I am quite often, and it says that the condo board can evict a owner or an owner's tenant, but the process is that they have to go to King's Bench, and so if you go to King's Bench and you're a corporation, you have no choice but to hire a lawyer. You cannot self-represent yourself if you're a legal entity, corporation. Yeah, so you have to have a lawyer, and the sad part is I'm not a lawyer, or maybe it's a good part, I'm not sure, and I can't help them with that. Like, I can help them with maybe putting together the evidence and stuff that you would need, because there's not a lot of lawyers that deal with this. It's kind of very specialized.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. If they had the cooperation of the owner, then they could have easily leveraged your services, Don, and gone through RTRS. So the fact that, like you mentioned, it's a legal entity, they're considered as if they're an infant. And then this is the one analogy I heard. They can't self-represent. They always need legal representation, and it has to go through a proper. Has to go through more of an official tribunal, which is one of the courts, as opposed to RTRS. So, or could they go through RTRS with a lawyer?
No, because it specifically says in the Condominium Act that they are to go to
Okay.
King's Bench. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
In the old version, it was Queen's Bench, but in the new version, it's King's Bench.
Okay.
It's the Queen died. I don't know if
Yes.
you heard that.
I heard. I am someone in the loop here, Don. All right. So I did reach out to a couple of tenants, or I did poke them on Facebook here. There's a couple issues I wanted to talk about tonight. There was a gentleman. His name's Jason. He's dealing with damages in eviction with a tenant that has kids who's on form of income support. Then we've got Laura, who suspects that one of her units in a fourplex are dealing drugs. I'm hoping she's tuned in, because I would like to get some more information and see if we can help her out. She has done the right thing in this case. Hopefully she tunes in and we can ask her the questions, but she has already informed RCMP and the Sheriff Detachment SCAN, which stands for Safer Communities and Neighborhoods. And that's, from a legal side, that's the best way to approach it with the law enforcement. If she could share a little bit more of the details, the type of lease, what's going on, I'm sure very likely you could probably find a couple of breaches in the lease, which then allow someone like Dawn to come along and support with an eviction through RTRS. But she hasn't tuned in yet, so hopefully we'll see if she comes on that. And then, of course, if you're watching live, by the way, say hi and let us know if you got any questions. I did see Lewis on. Thanks for saying hi. Good to see you.
Hi, Lewis.
Yeah, and then this was an interesting too. We're kind of talking about a couple more. Wendy's asked about, can a month-to-month tenant serve notice for moving out with a 30-day notice to be served by email? You know what? We can take this one right now. This is probably a pretty quick one. So, Don, question to you: can a month-to-month tenant serve notice for moving out with 30 days notice being served via email?
Okay, so there's a couple of provisos on the answers. If there's some danger that it's going to end up in a courtroom or RTDRS or someplace like that, then the official rule is that it has to be a written form and has to have certain things on it, and that can be found under the not municipal. It's escaping me, but anyway, section of the RTA, and so and it's served personally. So that's the official way that any notice is to be done. Have all the right things on it and served personally. If there's something written in your lease that says that the main form of communication is going to be email or text message, then certainly you can do that. You need to try and get as much of that information in that text or email so that it looks official. And the third way of looking at this is that from an owner's point of view, because I've been an owner, I've been a tenant as well, but looking from an owner's point of view is the sooner I can get that notice, the sooner I can put my plan together or initiate the plan I have to get that unit in the best shape as quickly as I can, so we can re-rent it. Yeah. So that notice would be fine for me in most cases.
Yeah, I think especially in this market right now, if they've given you 30 days, that's that's great. I think take that right now. This market's really strong, low vacancy. Flip and turn that unit over. And I would say it would be to your advantage that they are doing the notice via email. It's quicker, it's faster. Um, you might want to have a quick phone call or follow up with just a few clarification questions to make sure they understand what they're committing to, that they know they have to be out by a certain date. Probably confirm those variables in that email, get that all in writing. Oh, that was the other, that reminds me now, Don, the other question I saw on here was, I couldn't find it again, which is just challenges of Facebook, but it was, I'm trying to remember his name. The one landlord had mentioned that they're talking with the tenant, they're going to they've sold their property, and I think possession was like end of July. They, we're going to work with their tenant, say, hey, if you want to leave early, no problem, just give us reasonable notice. And 2 days later, tenant turns around and says, I'm moving out in 2 weeks. And he's like, well, that's not reasonable notice. So I think that kind of situation here is the devil's in the details, and just you have to be explicit. There is no subjective terminology. Yeah, you can move out when you feel like, or that stuff. You have to be like, reasonable is I want a minimum of 4 weeks notice, or whatever your requirements are. I'm trying to wonder, like, would there be a reason why you would not want someone to serve? You know what? I guess the only concern now I think was from the flip side is if you don't get the email and then they say they served you by email and they move out and you're caught off by surprise, you're gonna want to have a bit of protection that way. But if you've gotten the email, well, then I think we've kind of already sorted that out. You're well on your way.
Yeah. I've been getting a lot of questions lately, or even scenarios, or not scenarios, actual problems that because a lot of units are selling very quickly, that people seem to think that you just give the tenant a notice, 30 days or 60 days, and that you're going to sell the place, and they have to leave, which isn't true. There's only 5 reasons to, and this is on a month-to-month or periodic tenancy. There's only 5 reasons to ask somebody to leave in that type of situation. One is if the landlord or a relative of his is going to move in, take over. Second is if the place is going to be used for something else, you're going to repurpose it. You can make a grocery store out of it or something. Thirdly is if the place is going to be tore down, demolished. And then there's 2 reasons involving the sale of a unit, and the first being that it's being sold and the buyer has indicated that they're going to live in it, and they want vacant possession. And the last one is if it's a condominium unit or multi-unit situation. But it's all, both of those are at the sale of the unit, not when you're putting it up for sale, but when the conditions are removed or you've accepted a non-conditional offer. So for all intents and purposes, that unit is sold. So that's when the time starts. Basically, when it starts is actually, in all of those, it's 3 tenancy months, and it starts on the beginning of the next tenancy month. So
first full clear month.
Full clear month. So yeah. So if we were to,
today's May 1st, right, Don? So if they served it today, in reality, how many months would that be?
Well, before, because it would start in June, and so it'd be June, July, and August. So at the end of August, noon on the last day of August, 31st, would be the possession date.
Yeah, and make that clear.
Yes, and that's a big sticking point. I think that over. I just had one today on that, where the fellow died that owned it, and they put it up for sale, sold in 4 days, and they thought that the person had to be out in a month. They sold. They got a big mess that they're going to have to try and sort out somehow. I gave them some ideas on what to do, but at any rate, that's so important with so many people at this time, because the market is hot. They're selling their units, and especially if they're getting older or whatever, they want to get out of it, or they want to downsize the number of units. And it says a wonderful time to sell, but you got to do it properly. You're going to find yourself in a financial mess.
Yeah.
The buyer could be suing you.
Well, you
So
could lose a deposit on the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're doing it by the rules.
Yeah.
It can be
Minefield.
costly and expensive and lose an opportunity, right? Especially if you've got a sale contingent on your buying a property, contingent on your personal property being sold, your current one. So it could be a whole domino effect.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. Laura did hop on. Hey, Laura, thanks
Good.
for tuning in.
Hi, Laura.
So Laura was the one that we're just talking about. Where I'm going to give a quick recap, and Laura, feel free to add in what I'm missing with questions. I'm sure Don's going to probably ask you a few questions just to get kind of a quick foundation of what's going on. So quick note, Laura's dealing with a problem tenant. They have a fourplex, and one of their units in the fourplex, they suspect, as well as the neighboring tenants in the neighboring units, all suspect that this one unit is dealing drugs. And it sounds like there's a couple with an adult son, and they're not sure if it's the couple that's dealing drugs or the son or all three. That seems to be up for debate. Laura has already gone through and contacted RCMP, which is great. Well done, Laura. And you also did the next best thing too, which is scan. We've had actually a sheriff come on a Shoptalk a couple of years ago talking about the scan unit. I have to see if I can find you that episode. I know it's unlisted because at their request, they kind of wanted to keep it not as easily found. But it was a great gentleman, super knowledgeable. And so I know, Laura, you kind of ended your post with, what can you do, and do you have the possibility to evict them? So maybe Don, if you want to start. Oh yeah, and that's right. And Laura just add this part too. The only people on the lease is the couple, not their adult son, who's not on the lease. So Don, maybe just kind of ask some questions and start kind of giving some context to help Laura, and she can kind of answer away as we go through it.
So I don't. Did I hear in there that it's a month-to-month or periodic lease, or is it fixed term?
Let me see. I don't see it on the original. Oh, I'll go to it. I don't see yeah, it's month to month.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's assume that. So month to month, and how long have they been in there? Is this somebody that's fairly new, or they've been there a lot of years?
Yeah, how many months or years has the tenant's been there?
So that may have a play in it. It seemed to me that you said something about the son had left and come back, and the adult son left and come back, and that there's all these calls. So do you have complaints in writing from the other tenants? So that's another thing that we would need to know. And you're saying alleged drugs selling or whatever they're doing. Alleged is fine, but it doesn't have any weight in a court. So there's got to be other parts to it, and usually when you get into that sort of scenario, the other parts would include, there are 3 years, okay. Other parts would include not paying the rent on time, being late, messes around, tires piled up outside, the house looking like a pigsty, fights with the other neighbors, guys coming and going all times, day and night, that sort of activity, and the police coming around, and that sort of stuff. You're talking about scan right now. Scan right now is really, really super busy, and they're taking the worst cases, and that's the ones they're working on. In the past couple of years, I think I've done involved in about 4 other cases.
So Laura's saying that I think the things that you brought up there, Don, about the messes, perhaps fights, dirty broken car, she said they have all of that.
Perfect. Yeah.
So where are you going with this, Don? Is there maybe an opportunity here if there's other breaches of the lease that you might be able to
and you got to go. You can only go with what you know. and what you can prove. So my first suggestion is that you head for the RTDRS, and you're gathering evidence. So it sounds like you got evidence. So you got pictures of the mess, neighbors from the complaints, complaints from the neighbors in writing. You got to make sure. I mean, people don't want to have their name up because they're worried about repercussions, and the way to handle that is that the copy that goes to the tenant for the hearing, they have that information redacted. Now most of them are smart enough to know where it came from. I also at our place we go through to make sure you do the text, and if there's anything that really identifies them, we'll redact that as well. You have more than one neighbor in writing. Yeah. So that, yes, so you got to get evidence. And so you're going to go in, especially the highest weight is non-payment of rent or late payment of rent. That seems equally as bad as non-payment. So if you have months where they make payments over the month, maybe 3 or 4, 7th and then 11th and 19th, and then again on the 28th for that month's rent or part of the month before, and you put that into a tenant ledger showing that the dates. And I like to we have an extra column on the side that says number of days, and that's the number of days late. So it's supposed to be there on the 1st, and it's got paid on the 7th. Then they're 6 days late. And that is a quick reference for the adjudicator.
That's a good tip there, Don. I really like that. Yeah. Let's kind of summarize a little bit here. So okay. Laura, it sounds like you've got a number of things here. So you've got one. I asked how many neighbors in writing, because obviously if you've got 2 third parties confirming the same thing, that looks pretty strong than just one person writing, I think it's happening kind of thing. It used to be always late, but not now. Oh shoot, that's not good. Okay,
that's good. I mean, the fact that they were doing it for so long will help you.
Okay, so Don, would this be the case then? You would probably, to be kind of tactful here, approach this eviction through listing all the things that could possibly be a breach or point to possible breaches. So if I'm thinking, if the adjudicator, if the TDO, tenant dispute officer, comes back and disagrees on one of those items, you've still got perhaps a strong enough case with the other surrounding evidence to still move forward for an eviction.
There's 2 points with that. One is if it's actually part of the RTA section 21, and secondly, as long as it doesn't open up an opportunity for the other side to muddy the waters. So if you don't want to maybe bring up that the dishwasher's broke. If for example, if they can go on to rant and saying of all the and there was some truth to it, of all the things that they've been complaining about, or maybe didn't even tell you, that needed fixing. So that puts you in a bad light. Yeah. So we want to do things that are going to be. If you look at section 21, it starts with pay the rent on time, and it ends in leave when the lease is over. So it's basically in the in the list of highest weight to the lowest weight. And so if you look at it that, in case you want to try and get the top bunch, the most, and have good solid evidence, and emails, text messages are great, photos, videos. Nowadays we're getting more of those, and those are the things that will help you at the hearing to bring home your point. You got to expect that the other side's going to lie like a sidewalk, and they're going to come up with all these things. So when you're saying something and you have proof for it, then you're most likely to be true. That's what
I like a sidewalk. I have not heard that. I just I enjoy the seasoned language here. Okay, all right. Let's. I like that, Don. So kind of jumping in with you here. Laura's asking, should I do a 24-hour inspection? Her follow-up question is, how do I prove that her son is living there? I think these two kind of go hand in hand. I would 100% do a 24-hour inspection. I think a couple things here is make sure you do it by the book. So because you're going to be filing for an eviction, you're going to have to physically post the notice on the property on the door. Take a picture of it. I think just for your protection is do with 2 or more people should be present at the inspection with you. I mean, you and another person at least. You know, if you want to bring more, by all means, just so you can remove any hearsay. You've got someone just again looking out for your personal safety, and bring a video camera or take your phone and video it and have the other person take pictures. And you know, one example, if there's damages or anything on the wall, if you go and take a picture, put something beside it so you have perspective on the size of damage. If it's like a 2-inch hole or a 12-inch hole, you won't really know if you zoom in and take a picture. They need some context. So you know, a credit card, something, or a ruler, ideally.
pen. Yeah.
Pen. Yeah. So let's follow up on that second point. Is there anything I've missed on that, Don, about the 24-hour inspection?
Well, you give the 24-hour notice for sure, and I wouldn't go in with a bunch of people. One person would be fine. You don't want to be seen as coming in and in mass to intimidate them, or allowing them to bring that up, that you're intimidating them with a pile of people. When you're in, which I think I answered the next part, when you're in there, you count the beds. Take pictures of the beds. I had a lady with a 2-bedroom that she claimed there was nobody else living there except her and her son, I think it was. And when we went in and did the inspection, both bedrooms had 2 extra mattresses or blow-up mattresses on the floor beside the bed, and then in the front room there was piles of blankets around the couch and extra pillows and that sort of thing. And I got pictures of all that. And the counting point on that one was there was 2 or 3 little children there. I would say 5, 6, 7 years old, somewhere in there. And I just said very casually, I said, so you guys sleep out here in the couch? Said, oh yeah, me and we all sleep on the couch here, and he sleeps over there on the floor. And I said, so you sneak TV time in there sometimes? Well, we try, but Grandma hears. So it proved the point, and she was right there. So there was no denying. I had the goods, and so yeah, she had something like 11 people in her 2-bedroom that were living there, and we were able to prove that by having pictures of the beds and stuff. Sometimes it was a lady and or a guy, and either one, and they say, no, there's nobody with me, and you casually look in the closet, and you see women's clothes there. If it's a man, or man's clothes, there was a woman. So quite often that's what the giveaway is. Things like that. What the size of the shoes? You got piles of shoes at the front door, or 2 or 3 pairs. Is there a men's pair there when it's supposed to be only a lady living there? You snap a picture of that.
Sizes, right? You got giant shoes and small shoes and stuff. Another thing we can do too, Laura, I'm just thinking here, is I would suggest put another post in the Facebook group, and I just simply ask, how do you prove, or any tips or suggestions that the community can share with just proving a unauthorized tenant or someone unauthorized living at the property that's not on the lease. Any tips or tricks? Because I'm sure there's other stuff that we haven't thought of that the community can definitely help out with.
I often get from the neighbors that say, yeah, that guy's been living there for
neighbors.
Living there for so long, and his truck's always parked in the road, and that kind of stuff is big, especially if they put it in writing for you. expensive
Yeah.
cleanup.
And if you got the one tenant or some of the tenants, they've already talked, that's given you some writing about just the complaints they have. If they've got observations around that unauthorized tenant, the son, perfect. Get that in writing. And again, if you can get more of that, that's better.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So I know. I think you've. I think it sounds like you might have enough there just from kind of on the surface of what we've gathered so far. That you've got probably a case to move forward with, Laura. Uh, this gentleman, I suggest giving Don a call. I know he takes the calls all the time, just to give you some context. Um, yeah, what about evicting an unauthorized person staying at the property? Is that something you can evict on, Don, as well?
Yes, that's interfering with the rights of the landlord and other tenants when you have unauthorized people there. Interference on the landlord and the fact that there's more damage in the unit, and if you are paying for the utilities, then the utilities are higher. I mean, there's more showers, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So yes, you can do that. You have to be able to prove it. I've had lots say, well, he just comes over here once in a while, for a day or two, and maybe one night, and uh, and that's when you have the proof from the neighbor saying, the guy's truck's there all the time, and I talked to him, and he said he's moved in with her, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The pictures of him in the yard, that kind of thing.
Laura, you said this is a fourplex, right? So I'm assuming there's like a gravel parking lot or a parking lot on one side of the building with a common area entrance, or are do all the doors have their own direct access, or sorry, do all the units have direct access with their own door to the outside? Where I'm getting at with this is if they all come through one hallway or one entrance, you could and because it's a fourplex, you could put a security camera up outside just for people's safety, and it'd be pretty quick to tell this person's comings and goings. Have that up for a month or however long you need to that just basically prove the same person's there daily or every night sleeping for a week or more, and then you've got pretty strong evidence there. You could do a quick little log of the person coming and going and have the camera evidence to back it up. All
Yeah.
doors have direct access. Okay. But there's probably a parking lot. If there's a parking lot that they would typically park in, put the camera up there.
Yeah, I had one where the lady in the basement said no, there was nobody ever come to visit her. She lives alone. The upstairs was full of pea and vinegar, and so they put a camera up and one of the floodlights over the back door, and that was going. It was a motion activated, and that was going day and night. It had a time stamp on it, and we just took 2 days worth of video, people coming in and out at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and so in the hearing she didn't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just trying to think if there's another way. There's all sorts of cameras that can just do even like actually, you know what? Like those trail cams for hunting that they use to kind of
Mm-hmm.
capture game movement, they timestamp it and they don't even require internet. They're just motion, they go into a memory card. That's probably actually really the easiest way to do it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
hope that helps, Laura. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, anyways, yeah, post in the community group, ask about other options to kind of prove it. It sounds like that going on that eviction might be the strongest suit. Give Don a call. And hopefully we've helped you out there a bit. Okay. Let's go into a couple of the other questions. We've covered one of these about the email notice for a tenant moving out. We talked about your points, Don, about a condo wanting to evict a tenant with an uncooperative landlord. We just kind of went through and chatted with Laura. We'll go to Jason's one. So we kind of talked about this one a little bit, but let's get into it. Let's gonna bring this down. So I've got the post in front of my face here. So okay, so Jason's going. I'm going to again paraphrase here. So he's got a tenant. It sounds like it's a mom and 4 kids renting their property. He said he kind of took a chance. I think she's on some sort of living assistance. I'm not sure what the program is. Anyways, he's come by now. They've been there about 5 months. The last time he did an inspection here, the place is in very good condition. There's the sinks in the toilet were clogged. There's water damage because of the clogged sinks or toilets. There's just the place is in it's just a mess basically. So Oh yeah, sink was clogged with food. Apparently, the washroom flooded and damaged the roof below in the basement. Um, but what Jason wants to do is he doesn't want his tenant out immediately. He wants to give her proper time to find a new place, and it sounds like he's willing to give her to. I read it somewhere in here into end of June, even into July, and we're May 1st right now. So he's talking 2 or 3 months here. Uh, so basically his questions are: can I give that kind of notice? Do I have to file with RTRS? What if she refuses? I'm aware of a 14-day eviction notice. Should I use that? What is it for? Don, that's kind of where Jason's left it here.
Well, we'll tackle the 14-day notice. We'll tackle, there's three notices. One is a 24-hour notice, and it involves violence. So somebody punches out the landlord or another tenant or something, or throws something through a window, and that sort of thing. And then there's a 48-hour notice, which is for non-registered residents. So that's the supposed squatter. Maybe you had it empty and you go to do some work, and here's some guy living in it. Or there's I've had lots of cases where the tenant left and told their buddy, it's there, just give the landlord a few bucks. Or somebody that's been in there for a while and is not supposed to be there. So non-registered tenants. And it's a 48-hour notice. And then the 14-day notice is for everything else. And all those notices are basically a poke in the side saying, man, we're not happy. And you got this amount of time to fix this particular problem. And all of them, if they're not taken seriously by the tenant, then your next step is to go file at a court of your choice. The easiest one, of course, is the RTDRS, and cheapest. So that's what those notices are for. The 14-day notice can be, well, actually, all three can be. They can write a letter of objection, saying that that's not true. The only thing they can't write an objection for is if they owe money. If you're claiming that they're partying at 2 a.m. and threw somebody down the stairs, and they can say, I object to that because it never happened, or this or that. But if they owe you money, then they can't object that they either owe it or they don't, and they have to go to the hearing to decide that. So you have to take your proof. So that's what those are for. When they first came out, the first, I don't know how many years that they were available, they worked very well because people were unsophisticated, and they would listen to that and scare them, and they would either get better, do better, or leave right away scared. Nowadays, thanks to Google, we're instant expert on everything, including brain surgery. And so people have come to realize that they are what they are is just a poke in the side. And so we had lobbied probably 7-8 years ago. We started for a couple of years. We lobbied the RTDRS. The rule was that you had to give a 14-day notice before you could go to court. You had to prove that you gave it. And we lobbied them, saying that for these people who aren't paying the rent, it basically gave them 2 more weeks free lodging, which is detrimental to a business. And they eventually changed it. They changed it so that you could have your choice: go directly to the court, or go the 14-day route. And if you went the 14-day route, your hearing had to be after the 14-day, which is actually 16 days, because you don't count the day you serve it or the day it's supposed to be. It's 14 clear days in between. So the court can be on the 17th day, but as long as it's not in that apart. They would sort out. You had to apply again.
Okay.
Yeah, and so in your case where you want to help this person for whatever reason, and I mean it's good. It's fine. You're probably better off to be talking with her on a one-to-one basis, and coaching her along, maybe even helping her find a place. I've had people do that. They can do it gently. Uh, go on Kijiji or Rent Fast or Rent Board or wherever, and get listings that meet her criteria, and say, have you checked this place and that sort of stuff. And then when you're getting closer to the actual date you want it back, then you may have to get aggressive. People are, unless they're pushed, a lot of people will just let it ride out and see where it goes, and they don't put any effort. We see it as ample time. You should, if you put your crap in gear, you could drive that car all the way to the end and have and be in a much better spot.
Mm-hmm.
People leave it to the end, and so that's the danger in giving extra time.
But would it and I don't know if I caught this as you're kind of going through it, but were you suggesting to perhaps file now with a conditional order, eviction order, that they've got 2 months to move out or something like that? Or if you go in with that sort of, I don't want to use the word tone, but like positioning, perhaps the TD officer will not take your case seriously?
There's that danger as well, and certainly I was going to get to that in a little bit, but you're right. You could, if you have a strong case, for example, they haven't been paying the rent, and they're a month behind or 2 months behind, and maybe that occurred over 3 or 4 months, and you've got a really good ledger showing how they used to pay, and now where the problem lies, and you go into court and you want possession. And you can say to the judge that yes, we would like to offer a conditional order. Now, a conditional order says that you have to make the payments or whatever the problems are. You have to rectify them on time, and in full. So I mean that works real good with the money. If it's due on the first, if you don't have it till the second, you're late, and the penalty then is the owner can give you a notice of default because you default against a court order, and you'll have X number of days. It's already in the court. So it very seldom is it effective to go over a couple of months with the idea that you want possession. If you have a fixed term and it ends a couple of months down the road, you can get that type of order and saying that it has to be all paid. Maybe you have another payment on the 20th or something when the child tax credit comes out, and so you end up with all or most of what you wanted. And if you really want to help them, and and they're late, you have extra time to give them. You can it says the 14-day the notice of default has to be served within 14 days of the infraction.
Mm-hmm.
So you got 13 days to work with them, and if they're not working with you, then you can say, okay, well, I'm gonna pull the trigger now, and then it'll have in there that default will be maybe 5 days, so you got another extra 5 days to move, and then if they're not, then you bring a bailiff in, and you can play around with that a little bit for a few days if you need, so you can stretch it out a month or whatever. Okay. So it all depends what your goal is.
Fair enough. Then sounds like Jason's got some more questions to kind of figure out an answer.
Yeah, you can give me a call and I'll go over that with him if he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. I did post it on. I don't think he's hopped on it. This post was from about 6 days ago. So curious on his progress. I did ask him for an update too. Two more points to cover. We can wrap up the show. One I thought was really interested. So I kind of brought this up in the beginning. I think if I'm saying his name correctly, Fahim. He's the one that's got his property sold. It's gonna lease ends on July 31st. He's up selling the property. He's like, what, I'll help you out, tenants, if you give me reasonable notice. I'll let you guys break the lease already. Well, anyways, I'm not sure. Sometime later, the tenants come back and say they're moving out in 2 weeks, and that was not what Raheem had in mind as reasonable. So I'm looking to his case. We kind of just already discussed about the importance of being clear and explicit with what is reasonable, actually define it in the number of days or weeks. But here's a thought. So the property is, let's say, in his case, let's say the property is already sold, or it's conditionally sold. Let's say it's for, I don't know, extended possession 2 months out, or let's say it aligns with the lease, which ends on July 31st. Tenant says, yeah, I'm out. They break the lease. They're moving out. Let's say they give me the notice today. They're moving out May 15th. Do I have a leg to stand on, Don, if I was in this position and I want to go for unpaid rent? Because now they've basically breached the contract. But I know I have to reasonably mitigate my losses by listing the property and eventually bringing another tenant in. But I'm in kind of a tough place now, unless someone might want it for a short-term stay if they're in between properties. But I know the property sold at the end of July 31st for possession. I already have a signed contract. Can I go after them for lost damages on unpaid rent for breaking the lease early? What's my leg here?
Certainly you can. On a fixed term, they're responsible for the unit for until the end of the lease. But as you say, that'll put you into a bit of a pickle, because you are obligated to mitigate your losses. So there could be a deal worked out in there somewhere, and judges are open to deals if it makes both sides reasonably happy, or adjudicators or TDOs or whatever shingle you want to hang on them.
Yeah.
So and there's other parts in there. Now, if they left in 2 weeks and the place is in shambles, and you got $5,000 worth of repair work to do before you can hand it over to the new landlord, then a damage claim would be the way to go, to get that lost rent and the damages looked after. I've had that in the past, and we're many times where that type of scenario happened, where it was sold, and they had to get lots of repairs done, and we took him to court and won. So yeah, you have a leg to stand on. It depends on the situation and the value of the damages to make it worthwhile. You don't want to spend $1,500 to get $500 type of thing. So
yeah, just thinking that too is, because the cost and your time into it too, right?
Yes, that's got monetary value. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Last post. We'll wrap it up here. I'm gonna go pull it up here. Okay, Bunny wrote this. This was a couple days ago. Serve the tenant the non-renewal notice. We don't have that in Alberta, and I know, Don, you can kind of give me some context on that they need to leave by April. Now, they said they're not leaving yet and they can't find a place. What should we do?
Okay. First off,
the scenarios here. One, if it's a fixed term, do we need to give notice in Alberta?
No. Section 15 says that the tenant is expected to leave. I know of landlords who were surprised that the tenant left. No notice, but no notices need to be given on either side. Now, my suspicion is that when you say the non-renewal notice, they're talking about that. Um, there's not, there's any, as you say, there's nothing like that in Alberta. Uh, and there's a lot of different forms on like Law Depot, and there's a whole bunch of them that offer you forms. You give them $50 and they'll give you something that looks like it's official. And it may not be, may even cause you serious problem in Alberta if it's done the wrong way. So if it's fixed term, no, yeah, neither side needs to give notice for the to move out on that last day.
Okay. I'm just gonna throw some things in here. So there is no non-renewal notice in Alberta. That said, practical common knowledge says there's a lot of logistics with moving. You gotta give them time to do it and be fair about it. And
it's the right thing to do. Yeah,
exactly, it's the right time to do it. And it's a tough market right now. I would even hazard that this is kind of give them 2 or 3 months if you can. 2 months for sure if you can do that. I mean, I know if it's a lot slower, 30 days would be fine. But right now, we're under 2% vacancy. Definitely in Edmonton.
That's same as zero.
It's same as exactly. So it's challenging to find a place. So it is not unreasonable for them to expect and ask for more time. So if you can give them 2 to 3 months, do that. Let's play out the scenario, Don, that this is now an overholding tenant. It's a fixed term. It's, it expired. Oh, I don't know. It's expired today, and then tomorrow they're still there. What are a couple things? What are probably 2 things not to do? Don't make mistakes with say collecting rent, and then what would be a tip or 2 for this tenant to then start protecting themselves and dealing with the overholding tenant?
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head with don't collect the rent. So if they're supposed to be out at the end of April and May 1st, they show up or they're still there, do not accept that rent, because you take that rent, now you've moved into a periodic tenancy, and you may have them forever, or it feels like forever anyway. If you've given them a notice beforehand, which would help you in a case like that, if you give them a month notice or even 2 weeks saying, hey man, I'm coming in on the 30th to do a walkthrough with you, and they say, what? Yeah, I have to move, and that's all good evidence. Saying that you've given them that they have an idea that they were supposed to leave, and some of the other things would be to start the case at the RTDRS for overholding before the end of the month, when you're reasonably sure that they're not going to leave. And you've talked to them and they say to you, man, I got to stay another month. I have to stay another month. I haven't got a place, man. This is terrible. Then, that's a good indication that they're going to be overholding. So start the case.
I want to add a point in what you're thinking there, Don. On your first part, not accepting the rent, which I think is a great tip. A lot of us nowadays probably use e-transfer. I use it on my properties, and probably most of us have set up automatic what do you call it, auto deposit.
Yeah.
And what I've done in my properties, I've got one bank account per property. I've got an email for each specific property that has an auto deposit set up. So when they send an email or send an e-transfer to that email, it automatically gets filed into the corresponding bank account for that property. So it all auto files. If you're in this situation, you have auto deposit, turn it off, because as you just mentioned, Don, if you auto accept the money on the 1st of the following month, you're setting that precedence now that you want to continue the tenancy. There is no fixed term lease, and our RTA then dictates you've now accepted or have agreed to go into a month-to-month. And actually, I saw a question come out of you too. You've already talked about it today in the show, though. You lose a lot of power with month-to-month versus a fixed term. You can only end a month-to-month on prescribed 5 prescribed reasons, which John went through earlier in the show. Don't get yourself in that position. And then, sorry, back to you, Don. I wanted to just loop that part in.
And you're absolutely correct. And I've had, in fact, just recently, I'm going to say beginning of the year, I had a lady that said, he promised that he was going to be gone today, that his lease ended, and he's supposed to be gone. And what do I do? And I said, well, first thing, don't take any money. And she says, oh, it's already in the bank. He automatic deposit. I says, send it back to him now. Like, don't wait 10 minutes, do it now.
Yeah.
And she did. And lucky he had automatic deposit.
Oh, perfect.
Went back into
Boing,
his
boing.
account. Whew. And
then
I
turn
said,
that off.
and turn it off so he can't send it back to you.
That's
And
funny.
that made a difference. And certainly I've had other cases where they sent it back, but the tenant didn't accept it, so it sat there in limbo. But
At least it's sent it. It's
yes,
staying there. It shows
we had-
your intention as a landlord that you did not
Yeah.
want to accept it, right?
That's right. And that's what carried the weight. If you had gone and spent it on something, well, then you're in trouble, because you made a statement that you didn't want to make. Where was it going from there? Oh, what were we talking about here? Man, I got all
Yeah, I
excited.
got you going. We're talking about overhaul intent, just some tips.
Oh,
So
yes.
I think the first one is managing, not accepting that rent. You said another good tip, if I can quickly paraphrase and summarize, was if you have a good notion that they're not going to be moved out when you at the end of the fixed term, start the eviction process now. File with RTRS.
Yeah. Get that hearing date after the first, so it can be on the second. That's fine. So I mean, we're getting 2 weeks, so you can easily do that if you're getting a week away and it's clear that he's not moving. File right away. Then the hearing is going to be after the first anyway.
Which is another good reason why to have a quick chat with yourself. You file, you do hearings every day. So
Yeah.
you know the lead time right now, and it does fluctuate. It can be longer if there's holidays involved with some of the TDO officers, or if people calling sick, who knows, or it's a busy time in the market and a lot more people are filing for whatever reason. Sometimes they're short. We're pretty lucky here in Alberta compared to other jurisdictions in provinces across Canada. I think we have actually really the best turnaround time. So yeah, I think
We're the
that
best.
kind of wraps it up. I know we're at the top of the hour here, Don.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope we had some helpful questions and tips. That's really just what it is. I'm kind of a landlord nerd. I like having these conversations because there are so many nuances on managing your own rental properties. But honestly, when you do kind of figure it out and you get some of these good best practices put in place that Don shared tonight, it does make the job a lot easier, and it can be a quite rewarding experience. So.
Well, I get excited when we talk about this one. I can talk for hours.
Perfect.
My wife will tell you.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up on this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to Alberta Landlord Community's Shop Talk, all things landlording, the show dedicated to all things landlording. Well, we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Thank you very kindly.